Are you feeling stressed out and overwhelmed by all the marketing platforms you are managing? Well, especially in the world of social media, without a plan in place and a very systematic approach, it's just so easy to feel overextended, overwhelmed, and to appear rather erratic and really lose track of the key branding and messaging. So, to regain your focus, I'm hoping that these five top tips that I have acquired over 15 plus years will really serve you well. And they may appear fairly basic, but believe it or not, many marketing departments do not adhere to these processes. So, first of all, create a plan. I'm hoping that all of you have a really good annual marketing plan in place. But insofar as social media is concerned, as part of that annual plan, you really want to have a daily plan in place. And that doesn't mean you have to map out the entire year in advance. But what you want to do is you want to have a methodology. And I'm going to go into that in tip number 2 on how you can employ a thematic methodology. And you want to ensure that you are posting accurate content and that you're really covering all of your campus departments on a rotating basis. So it's very important that you don't try to do everything yourself. It's important that the dean, your campus life director, your person in charge of development, all of those individuals are stakeholders and they are responsible for providing you with key information. Your role in marketing is to establish the plan, the direction, and to do the technical aspect of the uploads, embellish it with photos, check the copy, finesse the copy, create great headlines. But the stakeholders should really be in charge of sending you core content. And that could be in the form of just simple bullet points. So they don't have to send you complete sentences. That will save them time. But they should also send you photos, videos, or if they're doing something that is more research related, like an academics, and they want families to know more about university requirements, for instance, they would want to also supply links to key research articles. So that's an important aspect. The next thing I want to talk about is every private school should have a style guide. If you don't have one, you need to create one. And most graphic designers can help you do that, or brand agencies can assist you with that as well. So you want to make sure that your logo and your messaging is consistent at all times on all of your social media channels. And that means that in your style guide, you may have your logo and how it is supposed to look at all times. So it's very consistent. And then you may have a spectrum of colors that can be complementary colors that you use on the website and other platforms. There are typically specific fonts that you use, messaging, key taglines, headlines, all of that should be in your style guide and should be used on a very consistent basis. The other thing that I really want to reinforce as part of an annual plan and a plan for social media is the fact that sometimes people don't step back and really think about what is the purpose? What is my goal and objective for each respective platform? And how am I going to apply that strategy? So, for instance, for Facebook, you may want to use that for your rotating campus thematic posts, and we're going to go into that momentarily. You may want to use Instagram just for photos, and then use YouTube for testimonials, events, sports, parades, stellar classroom lessons, etc. Now, take note, I didn't add, Twitter, because honestly, I do think sometimes private schools get spread too thin. So I think it's better to kind of focus in on 2 or 3 platforms and do those very well versus trying to do all of them across the board. The next thing I want to talk to you about that really worked successfully for me when I was the director of admission and marketing is I would think about my school in terms of what are the stories I want to tell based on themes every day. So every day I had a theme that I would employ. So on Monday, for example, you might assign academics. And under those posts, you would be in conversation with your dean or, assistant dean. And it could include really some very interesting and compelling updates on classroom lessons. It might have little video snippets of a great lesson that took place. And believe me, I mean, not only current families want to see that kind of thing, but prospective families really love that because it almost replaces shadow day experiences. You also really want to go to the core of academics. So academics may also want posts that are related to upcoming parent and teacher conferences or SAT and ACT testing. They may want something about the college application process and really provide families with key information that goes even beyond your school, but is national information about how to apply to the UCs, for instance, how to apply to the Ivies, what to do on spring break when you are going on college campus tours. It may include a lot of things for study tips or study habits. Or how to decompress from stressors that are getting in the way of academic performance. It may have to do with testing tips or college matriculation and much, much more. Um, I brought up college matriculation, and I just have to point out that so often we just take for granted that our current families and prospective families find that page on our website. But it's such an important page because so many families ask, well, where do students go after they attend your school? And so that's important not only to prospective families, but also to your current families. And then also really providing a service to people. And social media is a really great way to position your institution as a reputable institution that's focused on providing service. Whether students enroll at your school or not, let's all share testing tips and study tips and how to get into great colleges and share with other teachers nationwide some of the amazing lessons you're doing in the classroom. So now let me turn to Tuesday. Let's say Tuesday thematically is your day for athletics. So you really here want to tell your sports story and you want to ask the athletics director and your coaches to provide stories about team building, scholarships, coach bios, and the benefits of sports. So it shouldn't just be about the last game. I mean, yes, you're going to want to call out the big wins and some of the positive outcomes, but that is much better really, contained within your website. You're going to get a lot of local publicity on that. What you really want to see in social media is, calling out really some of the benefits of sports and calling out the scholarships students have gotten and the impact on cognition, leadership, academic excellence, and those kinds of topics. That can really inform parents. It really makes your alumni base feel like, wow, yes, one of my biggest takeaways from my private school was the fact that I competed in sports, and these are the lessons that I gained from it. Let's say Wednesday is associated with something about campus life. So here you would be telling the story of your school by showcasing clubs, activities, off-campus trips, various recreation options, mentorship programs. You would also want to be calling out your student government, leadership, any special programs that you happen to have. And this is also a great platform to post information about health, safety, nutrition, student assemblies, special announcements, and much more. So really, bring this section alive. It's great for both prospects and current families to see a club meeting or a club activity, or go on that off-campus trip with you virtually by taking a great video of that. It's great for them to see, student attendance or leadership at your assemblies or formations or whatever you happen to use at your respective school. And then why not have your head or your nurse or whoever making commentary about health, safety, and nutrition, for instance. So Wednesday can be a really great day to call out campus life activities and call out this information. And of course, you don't have to adhere to these specific days of the week. I'm just mapping out how you might think about your week in terms of themes. Then on Thursday, you could do events and fundraising. So if you really want to maximize attendance at all of your major events and even your minor events, you need to provide a reason why families should attend. Now, some families are great at just attending sports events, or maybe they come to your fundraiser every year, or some families just maybe go to graduation, or they just go to parent-teacher conferences. But why not invite them to some of your multicultural activities, some of your, really interesting activities and processes that you have happening on campus, and make it really easy to find the information. So make sure you detail the date, the time, the location, the schedule, and then how to register. So many times schools post all this information, but then families are fishing around in terms of how do I get this done? How do I register? Um, let's say Friday is then allocated for weekend activities, because you really want to give families a heads up about what their kids are going to be doing on the weekend. And for boarding schools in particular, most boarding school students do stay on campus. So you really want to call out special trips. You want to request any special fees or permissions, tell them about packing lists and sign up lists. But you want to call out that fun activity. And then I didn't include this, but then after the weekend is over, or maybe on Saturday or Sunday when things are happening, do something live and do a quick little snippet. Hey, we're celebrating Halloween at this haunted house, and you show a little video snippet or some cute photos, or maybe you went on a great hike, or maybe you took the kids fishing or canoeing, or whatever the case may be. Parents really love those videos, but they also love photos of their own, children. So really come up with a way that parents can quickly and easily get photos from your process and your platforms. The next day is Saturday, and you may think it's a lost day because parents are, sometimes just relaxing on those days, but it's a great day to ask for referrals and reviews. And what I always did was I would alternate. So one week I would request reviews, and then the next week I would request referrals. And I would do this religiously throughout the year. And it really does make a difference. And one of the best ways to start those requests is either you can use a catchy headline, but you could also just begin with a great quote from the platform. So if you have a great review on Facebook or on Google My Business or on Niche or Great Schools, wherever the case may be, just start out with a little snippet from that in quotes, and then say, thanks so much for your reviews on Niche, and then request them to do a review. And then you may have some type of a promotional program on campus for referrals. So don't be hesitant to ask for referrals. Many schools do use some type of an incentive. It may be a bookstore gift card, it may be a tuition discount, uh, any number of things. You may provide free uniforms for each verified referral that you get. And referrals, as you know, are golden because typically those students have a much higher level of being retained and converting to a bona fide enrollment. So don't be hesitant to do a rotation of referral requests, and just use your referral websites as a foundation to gather, quotes, and create simple posts. And I have a whole blog on this topic. I have one that's called Rally for Referrals, and the other one is 10 Ways to Generate More Reviews. So you might want to go to apertureadvisory.com and check out those two blogs. Also, all of the information I'm going over today is also on my website under the blogs, under social media tips. So this is all very, very important. The next day is obviously Sunday, and that's a good day for blogs and publicity. Religiously and consistently, I really encourage you every week to upload one of your blogs. It really does help ramp up your SEO, your SEM, your referrals, and your overall reputation management. And if you're doing a good job on your blogs, they are informative, they are educational, they are timely, and they are insightful. So really make sure that you have a consistent voice in your blogs. I also have a post about how to repurpose content, and I start with a blog and then I show how you can repurpose that content and use it in a variety of different ways across your platform. So I encourage you to read that blog as well. Families also are quite keen to share news stories after they are published or to see you in the news. So make sure that you're using platforms to get yourself out there nationally, like PR Newswire, or if you're working on hometown news, Read Media Merit is an excellent platform that's used by a lot of the Ivy League and by a few private schools, not many, but it's a really efficient way to get hometown news out there rather than kicking out, hundreds of small press releases a year for, your graduation announcements and so forth. So I really encourage you to check that out as well. Now, the third tip is, how do you create more followers? Well, you've got to begin with storylines and quotes to really capture, attention, to really get people excited about following you. And so make sure you're sharing with your audience how you solved a plot problem or played a part in a success story. Draw them in. And then write really strong headlines to call out what you're talking about, so they feel that the headline's very relevant with the content, and that will get them to engage. And then really include calls to action. Let the reader know what step you want them to take, whether it is, hey, read the full blog here, check out this news story here, see our full college matriculation page here. Give them something to do after reading that post. Sometimes I just read something on social media and I go, well, there's nowhere to go. It's not directing me to their website, so they're not getting any website traffic out of this. It's not directing me to one of their blogs or a news post. It's not engaging me on YouTube to watch this video of something that just happened. So just like you do on your website, make sure you're using calls to action on social media channels. And then use links judiciously. Use hashtags carefully and really check and do some research on which hashtags are the best ones. And just do a Google search, best hashtags for private schools on X topic. I do this kind of thing all the time and really gain a lot of interesting information. And then, if you have Google Ads, there's a keyword planner, and I use this with a lot of my clients to find really high impression keywords. So I also encourage you to use really, noteworthy keywords in your posts. And then, of course, last but not least, use photos and videos that really tell that story. It's the old adage in creative writing, show, don't tell. People don't want to hear the description of a game that just happened. They want to see a little snippet of that game. They don't want to hear about that classroom lesson on dissection. They want to see the kids doing it. Well, maybe they don't want to see dissection, but nevertheless. Anyway, the next tip is policies and guidelines. When you think about each platform, and if you use Sprout Social or HubSpot, whatever you may use to create greater efficiencies, make sure you're following the guidelines. So for instance, on Facebook, a lot of times, you'll see a violation, like if you have text on an ad, that's a no-no with Facebook. But for YouTube, for instance, they welcome a thumbnail photo with text because it helps people find your content. And Canva has a simple tool to create those thumbnails, for instance. So you need to be aware of these policies, where to use text, where not to use text, how to impose it on photos and create thumbnails. Make sure you post your privacy policies on social media and stay current on the laws. That's very important. And another thing that I notice so many schools neglect to do, they don't respond quickly to positive and negative comments. If someone makes a really positive comment about your school, thank them for that. Show appreciation, be grateful. If someone makes a negative comment, respond positively. Thank you so much for your comment about this issue. I would like to learn more about your concerns. Our current policy or process is X. Go into that. I also go into how to address negative comments in my blog on reviews. So you might want to check that out. I give you a lot of just simple copywriting tips and just phrases that you can tweak for yourself so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The next step is check out how the post looks on various devices. If your website isn't on responsive design, that's really critical because you're going to see that, it's not maybe looking good on certain devices. So you've got to make sure that, your social media, your website, everything is responsive. So it looks good on cell phones, iPads, and on PCs and laptops. One of the things I have noticed some schools starting to do is they're putting bullets after they write the post, like 4 or 5 bullets so that it pushes the links and the hashtags below the photo or video, because it can start to look a little funky on some devices because you have all these hashtags showing. And really, hashtags are just to help people find, the categories in search activity. You don't really need that as part of your post. So try to make it look really clean on the different devices. And then keep your focus on really relevant and compelling content. Think about, what does your audience need to know? What does your audience want to know? What is your audience interested in? And research the best days and times to post content. I did some research on this a couple of years ago, so I don't want to put in information that is no longer useful, but just Google search best time to post on Facebook, best time to post on YouTube, and you'll get some very useful research information. And then watch your analytics. So many times in marketing and in the offices of admission, there isn't enough attention to data, to metrics, to dashboards. All of these platforms have very, very robust dashboards, and they tell what is working and what is not, and allow you to do A/B testing. So you can test an ad 2 different ways, for instance. Now that brings me to social media advertising. Social media advertising is a great way to advertise at a pretty nominal cost and synergize your Google advertising, your SEO spend, your other referral websites that you're paying for, and drive some of those costs down and synergize, so you're really maximizing each of the respective platforms. So I really encourage you to do some testing of ads on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Just maybe begin with one and go from there. I'm also finding that LinkedIn has that ability for you to post articles and posts, and you are reaching a professional network there. So you may get a lot of referrals from educational consultants, for instance, or international agents, or you may have a parent audience that is in government or the legal field or entrepreneurship. You can tap into that, and you can also post your ads to these cool groups that you may belong to and start to belong to. So that can be very productive. Um, YouTube, I would just start out with no advertising per se, but look for ways to elevate your channel, and really tap into all of your constituents, your current students, your current families, your former families, your alumni base, your local community, and then all of your networks, your agents, your consultants, and other people that might be interested. And then maybe down the road, consider embedding some YouTube advertising. And that is actually an option within the Google Ads platform. And within Google Ads, I mean, I work with a lot of clients and do Google Ads setup and management for them. But there's some great tools within that platform that I use, even within social media, like the keyword planner that I mentioned earlier. And I also can see what kind of messaging is working in my text ads, and then I can use some of that messaging in social media advertising. And then use A/B testing. Be very analytical, very strategic. And then last but not least, use the demographic settings. It is amazing. If you look at your actual enrollments and where the students came from, that's going to help you really maximize your advertising dollars, whether it's in Google Ads or social media advertising, so that you target specific locations, income levels, parents with children and teens in the right age category. Very, very critical. So if you need any help with targeting, with creating a plan, developing content, generating ads, reviewing your results on your dashboards, I would love to help you. I have over 15 years of experience in private boarding and day schools, worked in marketing and admission at the director level. And I have a YouTube channel. The playlist is called Education, Marketing Tips for Private Schools. There's lots of information there on SEO, SEM, websites, referrals and review promotions, YouTube and Zoom tips. So do check it out, subscribe so you continue to view some of the other sessions if you like. Also, check out my blog on my website so that you have a copy of this content at your fingertips. And shoot me an email to arrange a complimentary consultation. More than happy to spend 30 to 60 minutes with you at no charge or obligation. I just really want to help support private schools and hope that you will continue to make headway. So I end this session by saying, always remember, to keep your focus because your focus determines your reality, as stated by the great filmmaker George Lucas. Open your aperture, look at your overall plan, break it down and start to compartmentalize and seek expertise where you need it so that you can do a top-notch job and really hit capacity with a wait list for your respective private school. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for subscribing, liking, and sharing.